guys, it's me, Derri, and today I'm back with another pharmacy school video. Today I'm going to be talking about my IPPE rotations. So IPPE stands for Intermediate Pharmacy Practice Experience. In pharmacy school, we have two different types of rotations. Well, actually, we have three different types of rotations. We have LPPE rotation, which is called Longitudinal Pharmacy Practice Experience, IPPE, Intermediate Pharmacy Practice Experience, and APPE, Advanced Pharmacy Practice Experience. So let me just give you a brief little overview about each of the different rotation types. An LPPE rotation is a rotation that we do during the school quarter. It's only 6 hours, and it's basically like it's a volunteer type of rotation. My school actually has changed up their LPPE requirements this quarter, so I'm really not sure how we're going to be doing this quarter, but in previous quarters we did 6 hours of volunteer pharmacy service at whatever rotation site they assigned you to. It really wasn't pharmacy related. It's just basically just a community service event or community service type deal. For my LPPE rotation site, I was working with the ombudsman program at a long-term care facility. So I would go around to the patients that were in long-term care facilities. That could be like patients with dementia, patients with Alzheimer's, things like that. And I would just go around and talk to them and ask them how their experience was going, ask them if they were being treated properly, being fed properly, cleaned properly, things like that, just to make sure that their stay was going pretty good and that they were being treated fairly and things like that. If I did ever encounter an issue where a patient was unhappy, then I would have to report it to my preceptor, but thankfully I never had any issues with any of the patients, so I would just go visit and leave. So I had to have 6 hours of community service with the ombudsman program, basically, for my LPPE rotation. Before I get into my IPPE experience, let me just go ahead and talk about the APPE experience really quickly. So you definitely do the IPPE intermediate before you do the APPE. The APPE, like I said, is the Advanced Pharmacy Practice Experience, and that is what you do your last year of pharmacy school. So I know a lot of people always say, how much longer do you have left? Technically, I have 2 years left, but I only have 1 year left in the classroom, and then my last year will be all APPE rotations, which is where I'll be doing I'll be going to different rotation sites and I'll basically be working in a pharmacy for, I believe it's 5 weeks for each different rotation, and I think there's about 8 different rotations. So that's your advanced pharmacy practice, and that is during your last year of pharmacy school. Okay, so now let's talk about the IPPE rotation, which is what I completed this summer, which was considered quarter 5 for us at my school. The IPPE, you have to do 2 different types of rotations. They're 4 weeks long at my school. The first one has to be a community pharmacy, and the second one has to be an institutional pharmacy school. I have never worked in a pharmacy. I did work in an emergency room at the hospital in my hometown, but I never worked in the actual pharmacy. When I was in the emergency room, I was a medical scribe, so I worked with the doctors, and I was basically like their doctor's personal assistant. I would do all of the charting and soap notes. If you know what a soap note is, I would basically do the soap notes for the doctors, just so that the charting process could go quicker for the doctors and we could see more patients during the day. So like I said, I never worked in a pharmacy before pharmacy school. So the IPPE rotation is basically like an experience to get your feet wet for people like me who've never worked in a pharmacy. So my first IPPE rotation was at a Kroger pharmacy, and I was there for 4 weeks. And I must say I really enjoyed my Kroger pharmacy experience. All of the staff was nice, the pharmacists were nice, everyone was always eager to help me. When I had questions, they were always very helpful, and they never complained or showed that they didn't want to help me. They really were very helpful, and I really do appreciate you guys at Kroger. If you're watching this video, thank you guys so much for all of your help that you provided me with, and I learned so much working at the Kroger. They said I actually picked up pretty quickly. I definitely picked up quickly on the dispensing and the working the registers. I mean, I've worked the register before, so that was no big deal. But when you're working in the pharmacy, you have to take into consideration insurance, people trying to get their medication before their insurance will, pay for it, because some insurances only pay for a 30-day supply. Some insurance will pay for a 3-month supply. So the insurance thing, it can be very tricky. That's one thing that I was learning it better and better each week, but of course by week 4, when I was really getting the hang of it, I was done and I had to stop and go to my next rotation. But anyway, I did a little bit of data entry. I got to watch some shots being given. I am immunization certified, but I have not given an immunization yet to an actual patient. I've only given it to one of my classmates in class, so I'm very eager to be able to give out immunizations. I really do like the clinical aspect of pharmacy in general, so I can't wait to be able to do immunizations. Other than that, you know, the staff, like I said, was great. I learned pretty quickly on where everything was at. You know, you have to know where the medications are on the shelf so you can dispense them and count them and do all that good stuff. Like I said, I did a little bit of data entry where you receive the prescription, you type it into the system so the system gets it, and then the pharmacist will pre-check it, and then it will go to dispensing. After it goes to dispensing, another pharmacist at Kroger would do the final verification, and then we would put it on the little stock shelf thing and wait on the patient to come and pick the medication up. So when you're working in a retail pharmacy like at Kroger, the main thing is the customers. The customers can make or break your experience. Let me just go ahead and say that now. Customers can be so picky. Sometimes they're not even understanding. But you know what? I actually had a great number of customers that really were understanding, because you know, I was only at the Kroger for 4 weeks, and like I said, it was my first time ever working in a pharmacy. So when I would, you know, let some of the customers know, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, you know, this is my first day, this is my second day, I'm still learning, you know, I'm new here. They were like, oh, okay, well, everybody has to learn sometime. You know, a lot of the customers were understanding. However, of course, there's always that customer that doesn't care who's new, what's this or what's that. They want their medication when they want it, and they think that they're obligated to serve before others. So we did have a few customers that if their medication wasn't ready when they thought it should be ready, they would get upset. For example, this one lady came in with her son and she wanted to pick her medications up. The line was long that day because it was just a busy day, and she waited in line and waited in line, and when she finally got to the front, she was like, I'm such and such, I want to pick up my medication for my son. So I looked up the medication. It was not ready. It wasn't even in the system. I was like, when did your doctor call this medication over? She was like, well, we just left his office 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago? Are you serious? Get real. Your doctor hasn't even, I was like, ma'am, your doctor hasn't even sent us the medication, the prescription, so we can't fill a medication if we don't have a prescription. That's basically what I was trying to, you know, inform the lady. And she was like, well, my doctor said they were sending the medication, they were sending the prescription over right then and there, so my medicine should be ready. I said, ma'am, let me just double check the voicemails and the fax machine, but as of right now, we don't have a prescription for your son. So I went over, you know, talked to the pharmacist. They checked the voicemail, we checked the fax. There was no prescription. So this lady was so upset with me. She's like, I can't believe you guys don't have my medicine ready. We've been waiting in this long line and my medicine isn't ready, and I just left the doctor's office. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we cannot fill a prescription or fill a medication that we don't have a prescription for. But she was so upset with me, and I was just like, I said, if you want to, you can go call your doctor and see if what's up with them sending the prescription over. You can call and see if they've sent it to the right place. I said, but as of right now, it's not even in this system at all. But she was so upset about it, so she left. We eventually did get the prescription, but when you get the prescription, you still have to fill it. The pharmacist has to pre-verify it after it's been entered in. You have to dispense it, and then it has to go through a final verification. So I don't think customers really understand the process of how filling prescriptions go. You know, we have to follow laws and regulations too, and I don't think some customers, you know, think about that when they come to pick their medications up. They're just so, I want my medicine, I want it now. But they don't realize we had to go through certain steps before we can get your medicine to you. So when the lady came back, I wasn't at the register anymore, I was on dispensing, and she was still acting like she was upset about her medication because I don't think it was already filled, but it wasn't verified on the last step. So she was acting really irritable and upset. But at the end, the person that was at the register did tell me that they apologized for, you know, acting up or whatever. But still, it's just like, come on, people. If you just left the doctor's office 5 minutes ago and your medicine isn't ready, don't have a hissy fit. Like, we get prescriptions in all the time, so we're filling them when they come in. We're not just sitting around doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, customers. The customers are interesting. I'm not gonna say I don't like working with customers, because I do like working with customers. I just don't like when customers are not understanding. And that's just my biggest thing. But that's always going to be the case, especially when you're working in retail pharmacy. Customers aren't going to always understand, and they're going to always be demanding and not caring about your whole process. So that was one thing that I have to get used to working in a retail pharmacy. One thing I did like about the Kroger pharmacy was the way they ran the operations there. Every 2 hours, the techs and me, the intern, we would switch our duties. So that just kept the day going pretty fast. So for 2 hours, I would be on dispensing. For 2 hours, I would be on the register. And then when I got better, I would go 2 hours in data entry, 2 hours dispensing, 2 hours register, and we would just keep rotating. I think that's a pretty good idea because everyone's not doing the same thing every day or all day long, and it just makes it a little better because you're not doing dispensing all day because that can get boring, and then you're not at the register all day because you know you can get crazy customers all day. I really did like doing it that way, being at different spots for 2 hours. I worked at my rotation from Tuesday through Friday, and I worked 10-hour days. So I was at the pharmacy from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, so I did 10 hours. So I would rotate 5 times each day, and it really made the day go by fast. We were always pretty much busy, so the day went by pretty fast. And like I said, I really did enjoy my pharmacy rotation at Kroger. And another big plus was that I shop at Kroger anyway, so you know I was getting my Kroger points, and I would just go, you know, if I'm leaving work or something, I'd be like, oh, I need to pick this up. I would just go ahead and pick it up while I was there, and I would leave. The only bad thing about it was that when I left the pharmacy, I didn't want to come back to Kroger because I had been there all day. We like to grocery shop on the weekend sometimes. I'm just like, I don't want to go to Kroger on the weekend because I've been at Kroger all week, you know. But anyways, other than that, I really did enjoy my experience at Kroger. And here's a picture of me and some of my coworkers that I worked with there, and they're just awesome and great. After my rotation, we actually all went out to eat at a Mexican restaurant and had us a few margaritas, and they're just so nice and friendly. Okay guys, so it is early in the freaking morning, and I am definitely not a morning person, and I am headed to my rotation. I have to drive about an hour 15 minutes each way there and back to get to my rotation. This is an IPPE rotation. It is Friday, thank you Jesus, because I am sleeping in tomorrow. I definitely need to sleep in. I am so tired. So let me get ready to do, well, I'm already in the car. So I am a coffee drinker, but ever since I have been working these early shifts and having to get up extra early, I have been drinking a little cup of coffee. Alrighty, so I am here. I know you probably can't see that, but that is the emergency room where I will be working at today. Every day I have been working in a different location of the hospital. Well, kind of sort of every day, but for the most part I was in ICU for one day. I was in the emergency room for one day. I went to infectious diseases one day. In the emergency room, I was in the emergency room yesterday, and I'm gonna be in the emergency room today. Hopefully it's not too boring. I do like this rotation. I do like the people at the rotation. It's just so boring. Oh my gosh. It's boring because I don't get to do much because I'm in like an observation mode. So I'm really just following and shadowing and doing that type of stuff. So I'm not really doing much. So that makes it pretty boring. I just have to make sure I don't fall asleep because it's very easy to fall asleep. But yeah, hopefully it's a good day. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit of action today in the emergency room, and talk to you guys when I get off. Alrighty, so I am off from my rotation today. I was in the emergency room. I did a little bit of things. I did a little bit of medication reconciliation. Nothing exciting really happened today in the emergency room, so it wasn't too hype in there today. We did get one asthma patient and shortness of breath patient. Yesterday we got 2 stroke patients, and I found out this morning that one of the stroke patients did pass away last night, so that was kind of sad. It is now 3:30 p.m. Well, actually it's about 3:42, so I'm just glad to be off from my rotation, and it's Friday, so I get to go have a good time. Okay, so IPPE rotation number 2, my hospital rotation. As you can see, I just inserted a few clips from some footage that I took on my way to work one day and on my way back. My second IPPE rotation was at a hospital. The hospital was about an hour and 10 minutes away from where I live, and I had to be at work pretty early, so that really was not ideal for me. I'm definitely not a morning person at all. I hate getting up early. I can stay up all night, but I just don't like to get up in the morning, and I think I got that from my dad. We're like the same in that aspect. But so yeah, I was getting up at like 5:30 a.m. to drive an hour. I was getting up at 5:30, leaving the house by like 6, and I had to be there at 7:30. I hate being late for anything. Like, being late really is like a pet peeve of mine, so I always like to make sure I get to where I need to be at least 15 minutes early, just so I can sit there and gather my thoughts. So I would normally get to the hospital around 7:10, 7:15ish, and I would just sit in my car until like 7:25, and I'd get out and walk in. Okay, so in my second rotation, for the first 2 weeks, I was basically sampling the different types of clinical pharmacists that the hospital had. So for a few days, I was in internal medicine, I was in ICU for one day, I was in the emergency department for about 2 days. I did a little bit of infectious disease, and I did another internal pharmacy. I think I did 2 different ones. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was very boring. My first 2 weeks were definitely boring because at the hospital I'm at, IPPE students, they're basically observationists. So all I was able to do was observe the pharmacist. I really didn't get to do any hands-on anything. I did calculate a few creatinine clearances, you know, did a little bit of ideal body weight, actual body weight, adjusted body weight type of deal. It was good for me to be able to see all the different types of pharmacists that hospital offered, because all hospitals don't have that many clinical pharmacists. And I must say that the hospital that I was at was a great learning hospital. They did have a lot of different areas for different pharmacists in the clinical field. So I did really like that aspect of it. I just didn't like the aspect of not being able to do anything. For the first 2 weeks, I was basically sitting behind the pharmacist like this, just watching whatever they were doing. So it was very boring the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks went by super duper slow, and I really didn't, I just don't like not being able to do things. I'm a very hands-on learner, and I learn better when I do stuff. So for me just to be sitting there watching someone or observing someone, that's just not how I like to learn. So that was very boring. The second 2 weeks I was in the central pharmacy. Every hospital has a central pharmacy. That's basically where all the dispensing of the medication happens, where the IV bags are made, chemo bags are made, medication is sent to the floors. That's the basic pharmacy. It's similar to a retail pharmacy. You're just not dealing with the customers or the patients. So you're just filling the medications. You'll either tube them up. They do have cart fill. I did a little cart fill. Each day I was in the central pharmacy, I followed a different tech around to see what their responsibilities were. And the techs in the central pharmacy were so nice, especially just about all of them, but there were a few that really took me under their wing, that really helped me out a lot in the central pharmacy. And I just really thank you guys for that. If you're watching, you guys are great. You know who you are. So that was pretty interesting. It made the day go by a little bit faster because like I said, I was getting there at 7:30 and I was leaving. I think I left at least around 3 o'clock each day, so I was getting back home about 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, about 4:30ish each day. When I was shadowing the infectious disease pharmacist, I did get to do a little bit of research to try to help her figure some things out, and I actually did research some good information for her so she was able to use it. So that really did kind of make me feel a little good, like I really did a little something when I was with her for a few days. And the infectious disease pharmacist at the hospital I was at is so well known around the country. Like, she was so smart. She was very intelligent. Everyone that I talked to about pharmacy, they always mentioned her, and they always raved about how smart and intelligent she was. She actually had so many interns in her office. She had about 4 or 5 interns that just are in her office, and that she always has that many interns because she's constantly doing research and constantly trying to figure things out for just anybody in the hospital. So she was very smart, and I did enjoy working with her. I really would probably like to do a APPE rotation with her in the infectious disease area because she was so smart and just knew a lot of things about pharmacy. Other than that, I did get to speak to a pharmacist about the pharmacy management side of the hospital pharmacy, because the hospital does have a few pharmacists that are coordinators, and they're just, you know, making sure everything's run smoothly, making sure regulations are met, things like that. I do have a Master of Public Administration, so I do have a little bit of administrative background, so that kind of interests me as well. I don't think I would want to do administration forever, but early on in my career, I would like to do clinical pharmacy in a hospital, and then maybe later on when I'm like closer to retirement or have been working in the field for a while, I would like to go into pharmacy administration. I do plan to apply to some residencies for when I'm done with school, because nowadays you have to have a residency to be able to do clinical pharmacy and pharmacy work. And you know, I believe that doing a residency will help me further my education and learn a little bit more about pharmacy and more real life pharmacy experiences than just jumping in and getting a job in a retail pharmacy. And it's very, very difficult to go from retail pharmacy to hospital pharmacy. It's easier to go from hospital to retail if you have a residency, because you know how it is in the hospital, so if you don't like it, you can always go back to retail. But once you're in retail and you haven't done a residency and you're trying to get in the hospital, it's very difficult to get a hospital job or a different type of position because you don't have that residency under your belt. So I definitely advise any pharmacy student, if you're trying to do pharmacy, I just advise you trying to do a residency. Even if you don't get the residency, I would just suggest that you try to apply for a residency, because I mean, it's only a year or two depending on what you want to do. And you know, you're in school, I mean, just do it. It's better to do it now than to want to do it after you've been a retail pharmacist for 8 years. You know, after you've been a retail pharmacist for so long, it's kind of hard to try to get a residency. And then you're going to be used to making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you go back to a residency and you're only making $50,000, $45,000, $50,000, $60,000. You know, you're not making the full pharmacy salary. So I'm going to definitely try to do a residency. I prefer to go ahead and make the $50,000 first and then make the big bucks than to go from big bucks to little bucks, because as of right now, I'm making no money at all anyway. So if I'm making $50,000, that's a lot of money to me. I don't work now, so I don't have any income. So $50,000 to me is great for starting out. And then I already know that I had to do that in order to get to where I want to be. So while I was at my hospital rotation, I did get to interact with some other pharmacy students from different pharmacy schools. I got to meet some students from Auburn, Mercer, and Sanford, I believe. And they were all APPE students. And then I also got to meet a good number of residents who had just graduated pharmacy school and had just started their residency. They were all from all different schools. We had some from UGA. There was even one from South that was doing her PGY2, which is the second year of residency. And I got to meet a bunch of different students and things like that. So that was interesting to see, and I got to see how the residents worked, and I got to see how the APPE students worked. While I was there and I was talking to some of the APPE students from Mercer, I learned that a lot of the students from Mercer were actually doing their whole year of APPE rotations at that hospital. Now that can be a pro and a con, just depending on how you want to do your APPE rotations, but I think I would prefer to just go to different places, maybe stay at one place for maybe 2 or 3 rotations, but I don't think I want to stay in one location for my whole year of APPE rotations. And I will definitely talk about APPE rotations when I get to that stage of pharmacy school, which will be in another year. When I was talking to those students, I did learn that regular 4-year school IPPE rotations for them are only 2 weeks long. So when I told them that my IPPE rotation was 4 weeks long, they were like, what? 4 weeks? That's a long time. But they did tell me that they did some type of rotation during the semester. So they only had to do 2 weeks after the semester. So ours are 4 weeks, theirs are 2 weeks. I guess because we're so busy during the quarters trying to get all of our information and learning in, that we don't really have time to do extra rotation during the quarter. So we do all of ours at one time, so it's a 4-week rotation, and 4-year schools are most likely to have a 2-week IPPE rotation. My overall impression of my IPPE rotations are, if I had to pick which one I liked the best from Kroger to the hospital for this summer, I would definitely pick Kroger, because I felt like I learned more and I did more hands-on learning. I was able to do a lot more, or have a lot more responsibilities in Kroger than I was at the hospital. Granted, I know that you can't just jump in a hospital and, you know, do all this changing and do all this stuff, but I feel like, you know, I didn't do as much as I would have liked to have done. However, I do know that when you're on an APPE rotation and you're in a hospital, you definitely will be doing more work and have more responsibilities. But I'm just such a hands-on learner. I did prefer the Kroger pharmacy this time versus the hospital pharmacy. And Kroger was definitely closer to my house than the hospital, so that was another plus. The staff at Kroger were a little bit nicer than the hospital pharmacy. That was a plus. The hospital pharmacists were not mean, but you know, I was only with them for like a few days. Like the clinical pharmacist, I was with one pharmacist for 1 day, one for 2 days. I was with the ID pharmacist for 3 days. So they really didn't get to know me. I don't even think they learned my name, honestly. You know, so it wasn't like I got to form a relationship with those pharmacists. It was just a quick in and out thing. So they really don't know me. I don't know them. So I really didn't like that aspect of it. They were nice, but they weren't like super welcoming, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so for this summer, Kroger wins for the IPPE rotation, and really vacation wins, because I'm on vacation right now, and 5 weeks off definitely wins. But if I had to pick a rotation that I preferred or liked the best, it would definitely be Kroger Pharmacy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like the dress that I'm wearing in this video, I will leave a link below to the tutorial on how I made it. Thanks again, and talk to you guys later.